I don't care much about legends or that kind of thing. I just want to be remembered as a good actor who tried to make a difference. Gene Hackman has died, but the mysteries surrounding his death have not only shocked Hollywood, but also caused a rift in his own family that can't be healed. A legendary figure like Gene Hackman should have had a proper funeral with tributes and news stories full of respect, but when he and his wife Betsy Arakawa were found in their quiet Santa Fe home, it was anything but. A maintenance worker found Gene Hackman, his wife Betsy Arakawa, and their dog dead in their New Mexico home this week. There was an open bottle of pills on the table and pills all over the floor. Their beloved dog was found dead in a closet just steps away from Betsy's body. Hackman's pacemakers showed strange activity on the night he died. What really happened? Is it an accident, a cover-up plot, or something even darker? The public still doesn't know. Another battle has quietly begun over his $80 million fortune. This is a battle where there is no room for sadness, only suspicion, anger, and unanswered questions. Gene Hackman had 3 children, but he never really connected with them. To Hollywood, he was a legend, but to his family, he was an absent father, a mysterious shadow that no one could ever really reach. His wife Betsy, who was thought to be in charge of all money matters, is now also dead, leaving no one to answer the most important questions. Who is really in charge of his inheritance? Did Hackman really leave anything to his children, or had everything been tampered with a long time ago? Secrets have been kept for decades. The story of Gene Hackman is not just a Hollywood movie, it's an unfinished Hollywood script. It's a dark story full of mystery, betrayal, and a family torn apart by the ghosts of the past. Gene Hackman was known for playing tough guys on screen and was considered one of the best actors in Hollywood history. But when the stage lights went down and when the camera stopped rolling, Hackman was no longer a legend. He turned into a different man, distant, cold, and always maintaining an invisible barrier, even with those closest to him. During his 95 years of life, Hackman had 2 marriages. With his first wife, Faye Malty, he had 3 children, Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie. Even though he was their father, Hackman was never really present in their lives. Gene Hackman was always busy with long filming schedules, endless travels, and years spent basking in the fame of her husband. While everyone admired him in Hollywood, his children grew up in silence. His absence always felt like a shadow. A close friend once told Gene that for him, family always came first, and family dinners, teaching his kids how to ride a bike, or even just a simple hug before bed were always in the background. Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie didn't have a father. They had a Hollywood icon that everyone admired. In 1986, after 30 years of marriage, Hackman divorced Faye Maltz, but not the divorce itself was heartbreaking. It was how Hackman disappeared from his children's lives. After the divorce, Hackman stopped calling and meeting with his children very often. Over time, Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie learned to live without their father. But what they didn't expect was that just a few years later, Hackman would start a whole new life with another woman. In 1991, Hackman married Betsy Arakawa, a pianist 31 years his junior, and from that was the last time Hackman would ever talk to his ex-family. Betsy wasn't just his wife, she controlled everything around him. She answered all of his calls, so even his closest friends couldn't get in touch with him directly. She was in charge of all of his finances, so every investment decision and real estate purchase had to go through her. Most importantly, she was in charge of his personal relationships. A longtime friend once said, "I tried calling Gene, but Betsy was always the one who answered." Nobody could talk to Gene Hackman because Betsy wouldn't let her. No one knew if Hackman chose to do this, but it was clear that once Betsy entered his life, Hackman cut all ties with his 3 children. They were no longer in his life. The few letters he wrote were never sent. The phone calls he made never went through. And Gene Hackman, who had been a distant father, became an untouchable enigma. In 1995, Hackman wrote a letter to his oldest son from his log cabin in Santa Fe. He wrote to his son Christopher, "Son, I know I was never the father you wanted me to be, but you have to understand I was never truly meant to belong to anyone, not even my own family." That letter never left his drawer, and over the next few years he wrote more letters to Elizabeth and Leslie, but they never got them. Hackman spent his whole life avoiding his family. Did he ever feel bad about it? Had he come to terms with the fact that he was born to be a legend, not a father? There were signs that Hackman's children were unhappy with how Betsy ran their father's life, but they never said anything bad about her in public. This brings up a lot of troubling questions. Did Hackman really want to be estranged from his children, or was Betsy's influence the reason? Did he really want to leave them his fortune, or had all of his decisions already been made by his second wife? The answers may lie in the many changes Hackman made to his will. In his last years, Gene Hackman changed his will many times, so no one knows for sure where his $80 million fortune will go. Did Hackman leave an inheritance for his children, or did he give everything to Betsy? More importantly, if Betsy was his main beneficiary and died at the same time as him, what would happen to his fortune if Hackman hadn't changed his will to account for the possibility of both spouses dying? If Hackman died at the same time, his estate could be the subject of a long legal battle over who has the right to claim it. Would his children fight for what they think is theirs, or would someone else join the fight for his money? Also, Betsy's mother is still alive, though she has dementia. If Hackman left everything to Betsy without making a plan B, her mother could become the legal heir, which could lead to a fight between the Hackman family and Betsy's mother. Concerning Gene Hackman's $80 million fortune, there is an undeniable fact that he is at the center of a legal battle that could last for years. Will his 3 children be able to reclaim what was rightfully theirs, or have they been completely erased from his will? Most importantly, if no one has legal control over the will, who will really inherit Hackman's fortune? There will be no easy answers. A quiet but explosive legal war is brewing that may outlast even the famous movies he left behind. Gene Hackman had a huge fortune worth up to $80 million that he had built up over decades of working hard in the arts. His wealth didn't just come from film salaries, it also came from real estate royalties from his book on classic movies and mysterious investments that he'd never talked about in public. One of the most interesting things about Hackman's wealth was his real estate holdings. For over 30 years, he and his wife Betsy Araki lived in a luxurious estate in Santa Fe, New Mexico, an expansive and tranquil retreat that perfectly fit with his decision to live far away from Hollywood in his later years. The estate, which was built in the Southwestern style and sits on a huge piece of land, is now thought to be worth over $10 million. Before he moved to Santa Fe, Hackman owned a number of high-value properties. For example, the 25-acre estate in Monterey, California, where he lived with his first wife, Faye Maltz, was sold in 1985 for about $5 million. $5 million. But thanks to the relentless rise of the real estate market, it's now worth more than $25 million. Hackman also owned a home in Pebble Beach, California, which is one of the most expensive places in the United States. When it was later put on the market, it went for an unbelievable $79 million. But Hackman's wealth went beyond real estate. Even after he stopped acting in 2004, he continued to make a lot of money from movies like The French Connection and Superman. No matter how much time goes by, Unforgiven and The Royal Tenenbaums still bring in millions of dollars in royalties every year. Hackman's name is still remembered, and money keeps coming in from DVD releases, streaming services, and international TV syndication. But what really made Hackman's fortune interesting were his investments outside of entertainment. He wasn't just known as an actor, he was also a smart financial investor who held shares in major investment funds and managed financial funds. More importantly, Hackman had offshore bank accounts in financial havens like Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, and Singapore. His transactions were nearly impossible to track because they were done through a network of shell companies that not even his closest friends and family knew about. But that wasn't the most shocking discovery among the financial documents found after his death. That was a contract setting up the GH Legacy Fund, a secret financial. No one knows what Hackman was trying to do with this fund, but one thing is for sure, none of Hackman's family members were listed as beneficiaries. Not Christopher, Elizabeth, or Leslie. This begs the question, if not his family, then who did Hackman really trust? Under the surface of a Hollywood legend, Hackman seemed to be a man who kept his deepest secrets to himself. He didn't say why he set up the GH Legacy Fund or why he purposely left his family out of it. It's clear that this wasn't just any investment trust, it was a well-thought-out financial move that not even Hackman's closest friends and family could understand. The complexity of Hackman's wealth not only showed how rich he was, but also how much control he had over his life right up until the end. Anyone who thought Hackman was just an amazing actor was wrong. He was a man who didn't leave anything to chance, not even after he died. At this very moment, lawyers are probably getting involved. Hackman's family might not be able to get in touch with him if the court decides that his estate should be handled according to general inheritance laws. This would mean that the children he had grown apart from might end up with nothing, while a completely different force takes control of his wealth. There are more questions than answers right now. Will Hackman's 3 children be able to get back what they think is rightfully theirs, or will they have to watch their father's entire legacy go to someone else? This legal battle could last for years, and, like a Hollywood script, it's full of mysteries that haven't been solved yet. Gene Hackman not only had a controversial life, but he also made history with iconic performances, before getting involved in legal battles over his will and inheritance. He was one of the most respected actors in Hollywood, and a man who came from a hard background to become one of the most sought-after stars on the big screen. But Hackman's path to fame wasn't easy. No one could have imagined that Hackman, who dropped out of high school and joined the military at 16, would one day become the biggest star in the movie business. Hackman was born in 1930 in San Bernardino, California, and his childhood was anything but stable. When he was 13, his father left the family, leaving his mother to struggle on her own. Hackman grew up with an independent but deeply unsettled spirit. At 16, he quit school and joined the Marine Corps. Hackman joined the military and worked as a field radio operator for more than 4 years. It was there that he first developed an interest in media and performance. After leaving the military, Hackman went to the University of Illinois to study journalism and television production. But his time there wasn't long-lasting. He soon dropped out and moved to Los Angeles to take acting classes at the Pasadena Playhouse, where he met Dustin Hoffman, another aspiring actor. Both Hackman and Hoffman were told they had no future in the business. One of Hackman's teachers even told him he would never be a successful actor, but Hackman didn't give up. Instead, he used those comments as motivation to prove them wrong. The early years of his career were filled with small parts. He struggled to make money and did everything from driving a truck to selling shoes to working as a security guard. But he never gave up on his dream. His big break came in 1964, when director Robert Rossen cast him in a supporting role in Lilith. The movie, which starred Warren Beatty, got the attention of filmmakers, especially Beatty, who would later play a key role in Hackman's career. In 1967, Beatty introduced Hackman to director Arthur Penn for Bonnie and Clyde. At first, Hackman wasn't the first choice for the role of Buck Barrow, but his raw, intense performance helped the movie become a huge hit. The role earned him his first Academy Award nomination, which marked his big break into the movie business. After Bonnie and Clyde, Hackman quickly landed other roles. Hackman's big break came in 1971 when he played Jimmy Poe Doyle in The French Connection. This role not only won him the Academy Award for Best Actor, but it also made him one of Hollywood's leading men. His performance as the tough, relentless, and cunning police officer was electrifying, and the movie was a huge hit. From then on, Hackman wasn't just a supporting actor, he was the star of the movies in the 1970s and 1980s, continued to rule the big screen with remarkable roles as Lex Luthor in Superman 1978, the inspiring basketball coach in Hoovers 1986, and the determined FBI agent in Mississippi Burning 1088. Hackman showed off a different side of his acting skills, but he wasn't limited to a single type of role. He was a very versatile actor who could easily switch between villains and deeply complex characters. He won his second Academy Award in 1988, which was even more proof of his versatility. Hackman won another award for Best Supporting Actor in Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven, playing the cruel sheriff Little Bill Daggett. By the early 2000s, Hackman was still one of Hollywood's biggest names. He continued to impress audiences with movies like The Royal Tenenbaums 2001, Runaway Jury 2003, and Welcome to Mooseport 2004. However, in 2004, at the height of his career, Hackman shocked everyone by saying he was quitting acting. He was still one of the most bankable stars in the business. Hackman had other options. He quit Hollywood to focus on his personal life and his love of writing. In the years that followed, he published a wide range of books, from historical fiction to thrillers, showing a whole new side of his creativity. Even though he wasn't acting anymore, Hackman's legacy lived on in the hearts of fans. He wasn't just an actor. He was a symbol of persistence, resilience, and characters who never gave up even though he went into a quiet life. Hackman's death was shrouded in controversy and mystery. As details of his will and inheritance slowly came to light, one question remained unanswered. Did he really have control over his own life until the very end, or were unseen forces manipulating everything from behind the scenes? Gene Hackman left this world in the same way he lived it, quietly, mysteriously, and without leaving too many traces. But when the doors to his Santa Fe home closed after his death, it didn't just mark the end of a Hollywood star. $8 million is more than just a number. It's part of the legacy of a man who spent his whole life controlling everything, including his own wealth. But the biggest question still stands. Who will really inherit this money? Hackman's will hasn't been made public yet, but his strange relationship with his 3 children has made people wonder if they will actually get a share of his estate if Betsy Arikana, his second wife, was the legal heir. Her simultaneous Hackman's death has made things even more complicated. Will Hackman's 3 children fight to get back the inheritance, or will the money end up in the hands of someone unknown, as rumors about the secret GH Legacy Fund suggest? Does Betsy's family have any legal grounds to make a claim? In the coming days, answers may start to come out, but one thing is for sure, this inheritance battle will not be over soon. It could go on for years, or even decades, full of shocking court cases, revelations, and maybe secrets about Gene Hackman that were never meant to be revealed. But money wasn't the only thing Gene Hackman left behind. For over 40 years, he dedicated himself to movies, bringing to life characters that were strong, gritty, and deeply complex. Hackman never looked for glamorous roles. He chose characters that were complex, sometimes rough, sometimes bitter, but always strikingly real, like the irritable detective Jimmy "Popey" Doyle in The French Connection, the smart bad guy Lex Luthor in Superman, and the cruel Gene Hackman left behind a legacy that can never be replaced. He wasn't just a great actor, he was an artist who wasn't afraid to leave Hollywood to live life on his own terms. Hackman left Hollywood almost 20 years ago, but his name still shows up on classic movies and in legal documents where family members, lawyers, and other interested parties are waiting for the final answer on who really deserves Gene Hackman's fortune. No matter how long the battle lasts. While his estate lasts, one thing is certain: Gene Hackman's artistic legacy will never be questioned or fade. What do you think about Gene Hackman's life and legacy? He left behind an unforgettable collection of films, but the last chapter of his life is still full of unanswered questions. Were these the results of his own choices, or were there unseen forces controlling everything from behind the scenes? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date. As we keep looking into the most shocking deaths of Hollywood stars, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next movie.